Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I am finally back filming a weekly reads video. I feel like I haven't filmed one in 3 weeks. I know the last one I filmed was my Booktubeathon wrap-up, and I have to tell you guys, I was quite burnt out by the end of Booktubeathon. I went so hard that week that I just did not feel like reading. And then the first book I picked up in August, which we'll talk about, really burnt me out as well. So I've not done a lot of reading this month. I've only completed 4 books, and one of those was a large graphic novel, but didn't take me hardly any time to get through. So for me, that's not many books at all. I just am not in the mood. I don't know what it is. Maybe part of it is I'm not picking up good books. We'll get into that though as we talk about it. But August has also been a very busy month. I just have not had time to film. We have doctor's appointments and things going on and events that we're going to. So we're spending a lot of time as a family. We went on vacation, which was really fun, but I just have not had the time to sit down and prepare for filming and whatnot. So I apologize. I want to be putting up these weekly videos at least every week, and just recently I have not. But school starts next week, so we will probably be getting back into a much more consistent routine, which means I will have some time to myself during each week so I can film my weekly videos. So stick with me, it will happen. I'm also in a little bit of a different filming location or angle because yesterday I fell down and twisted my ankle really bad and scraped up my hand pretty good. So I'm back to sitting down while filming my videos, and I'm actually kind of enjoying it. It feels really good to sit down. So if you guys like this angle, I will probably keep it, but let me know what you think. Do you like this one versus my last video where I was standing up? Let me know if you have a preference, and I will do whichever one you guys prefer. Anyway, let's get into these books. The first book I'd like to talk about is Lost Boy by Christina Henry. Now this is by the same author who wrote Alice and the Red Queen, which was a duology that I absolutely enjoyed. I ended up rating both of those books 4 stars, I think. So I was so excited to get this book. I actually pre-ordered it, which I do not pre-order a lot of books. I pre-order very few throughout the year, but this was one, and I could not wait to read it. Once it came, I was like, oh my gosh, look at that cover, and it sort of still matched the same aesthetic as Alice and the Red Queen, so they look really pretty on my shelves together. So I was excited to read it. I was still in the middle of my reading slump, so I thought this was going to be the book to break me out of it. Guys, this book took me 8 days to finish, and it is not very big. The print is not very small. It should have taken me no time at all. I just could not get into this book. The beginning of the book was so slow and drawn out that I could not read it. I had to force myself to pick it up, which is never a good sign. But I wanted to finish it because I did not want to DNF it. First of all, I paid full price for it. And second of all, I thought maybe towards, the middle or end of the book, something would turn around and I'd get really excited about it and want to read it. That really didn't happen. I still had to force myself. Even when the action picked up and I found it easier to get through, I still didn't like the book that much. I just found all of the characters whiny and unlikable. There was 1 or 2 characters that I actually sort of liked, but they were such minor characters that I didn't even have a chance to get a real emotional connection with them. And I didn't feel an emotional connection to any of the other characters. I felt that the plot itself was not clever. With Alice and the Red Queen, I felt there was a lot of elements taken from the original story, but was twisted around and made into such a different story that I thought it was fantastic. This was so much more cut and dry as far as the original story went. The only difference maybe was they made Peter more into a villain, which is not a spoiler at all. You find that out in the first 5 or 6 pages of the book. He's more of a villain. He's not likable. None of the other characters had any sort of depth to them that I really liked. The main character is Jamie, and he has flip-flopping opinions all the time, which drove me crazy. Just not something I enjoyed. I rated it 3 stars, but the more I think about it and the more I talk about it, I may drop it down to 2.5 stars. I'm not sure, because I really didn't like it, and it was very disappointing. But yeah, it was just okay. If I had not pre-ordered this and I didn't already own it, I would not have bought it, so I don't recommend it. The first line in this book is, "Once I was young, and young forever and always, until I wasn't." The next book I read was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I actually picked this up for tome topple. I did not end up completing most of my tome topple books. I completed 2, I think, out of the 4 that I picked. This was one, and I completed a graphic novel, which you'll see in a few minutes. I felt like this was just okay. Again, I rated this 3 stars. I was really anticipating it because coming off A Court of Mist and Fury, I was so in the mood to get back into this world. So I thought, yes, I'm going to continue on and hope that this book was going to be on the same level as A Court of Mist and Fury. It was not. A Court of Mist and Fury was definitely the best book by far out of the trilogy. I still did not like the main character, Feyre. She just gets on my nerves. I can't even pinpoint what it is about her that I don't like, but just everything she does really annoys me. I still loved Rhys, and I loved his group of friends. I thought they were really great, and I loved Lucien in this book. I just didn't like a lot of the other characters and found that it was very slow and drawn out, and it took forever to get to the main point of the story. I still enjoyed reading it, and I would pick up maybe more books by her, especially if they're set in this same world, especially if Feyre is not the main character. But I am not going to be in a rush to do so right now. I just am kind of burnt out on these characters. But yeah, I gave this 3 stars, and the first line in this book is, "The buzzing flies and screaming survivors had long since replaced the beating war drums." The next thing I picked up was a graphic novel for tome topple, and that was Blankets by Craig Thompson. This definitely fit the bill of read a graphic novel over 500 pages. This is almost 600 pages. I knew nothing about this story when I picked it up. I just saw that it was one that was recommended and just requested it from my library, and it came in quickly. And I loved the artwork on the cover, especially. I hadn't really looked through it when I first picked it up. So when I got into it, it was not the story I was sort of expecting. It was the story of his life is based on his early life and stuff that he went through. And a lot of it was very religious and him grappling with the religious standards that were being put on him. I found it interesting, but I didn't find the execution of it that good. However, like I said, the artwork was what really drove this for me. I ended up just stopping and staring at some of the pieces of artwork in here. I thought they were great. And especially coming from a person like me who cannot draw to save her life, I thought they were very good. Not that I have any experience, so take that with a grain of salt if you are listening to me, because you might read graphic novels all the time and be like, oh, this isn't that great, but I thought it was good. But the story just didn't satisfy me in a way that I hoped it would, and I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. It was enjoyable though, and if you have a couple of hours to kill on a lazy weekend day or something, I would definitely recommend picking it up, because just for the artwork alone, I think you would really enjoy it. The next book that I picked up was Gwendy's Buttoned Box by Stephen King and Richard Chismar. I picked this up at the end of Booktubeathon, hoping to finish it for Booktubeathon, but I just couldn't make it. I ended up falling asleep that night and ended up finishing this the next day. It's a very short book. It is a novella basically set in Castle Rock, Maine, which a lot of his books are, and him and Richard are writing about this girl who is trying to get in shape and lose weight, so she's exercising, and she has to run up these huge stairs that are in the town. So she ends up running up them, she gets to the top, and she meets this man in black who issues her a very weird responsibility that she has to take upon herself. I won't give it anything more away than that, because it's kind of something that you have to go into not knowing a ton about. This was another book that I pre-ordered. I did because it was a Stephen King book, which I collect his books, so that was the reason why I pre-ordered it. But I was interested in the premise, and I thought it was going to be a fun read. It was fun, it was entertaining, but it wasn't anything that is going to be life-changing or something that I will even really remember a couple years down the road. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. Do I think it's worth a read? Absolutely. It's fun, especially if you like Stephen King short stories. It's not one of his better ones, but I still think it's entertaining enough to maybe take with you on vacation or something, or if you're just looking for something quick to read during like a readathon, it's definitely perfect for that. But not something that I would be recommending all over the place. The first line in this book is, There are 3 ways up to Castle View from the town of Castle Rock: Route 117, Pleasant Road, and the Suicide Stairs. The next book I read was The Long and Faraway Gone by Lou Berney. I did this as a buddy reads with my friends Liz and Deb. We had a lot of fun buddy reading this. I was so impressed with the level of depth that they were able to extract out of this book. I feel like if I had read this on my own, I would have still really enjoyed it, but I would not have thought about some of the things that they picked up on. I love doing buddy reads just for that fact that other readers pick up on other things. Their experiences force them to look at things differently than you might look at things, and you might read the same book, but you might get totally different things out of it. And I'm such a fast reader that sometimes I do not stop and take the time to think about behind the scenes sort of things, like what the characters are thinking, what their motives are, how they must be feeling, what must have happened in the past to then make them feel this way now. I mean, I do that here and there, but not all the time, and not to the extent that other people do. I've just never been that much of a critical reader where I'm kind of really analyzing and picking things apart. So reading it with them was so fantastic because they were able to sort of force me to slow down and to look at those things. And it kind of changes the way now that I'm starting to read the books that I'm reading. I'm kind of starting to take a little bit more of a break here or there and kind of just dwell on what I read instead of kind of like trying to like fly through the book as fast as I can and not absorbing as much as I normally would absorb. So buddy reads just for that fact is fantastic, and I would definitely do another buddy reads with them in a heartbeat. Liz was also really great about Google Mapsing things in this book. Like we'd be reading about a certain park or a certain place, and because this is set in Oklahoma, she was able to actually go through and figure out exactly where those things are or where they would be and show them to us on Google Maps. So I thought that was really fun. But the story itself was really great too. This is about these 2 characters. We kind of follow each of their points of view. They have both had horrific things that have sort of happened to them in their past in the year 1986 that have really impacted them now as adults. So we're following their stories, and they're kind of going back and forth between the past and the present. And even though they lived in close proximity to each other, they never really, their stories don't really connect that much. So really the characters only come in contact with each other once or twice in the book. I think it was maybe only once. But still they flow together very nicely. So I love the way that he was able to weave these 2 stories together and keep our attention that way. I thought that the plot was clever and the way he wrote it was clever. I thought the pacing was fantastic. I didn't want to put the book down when it came time at the end of the day. We were only supposed to read about 50 pages a day, and I didn't want to put it down. I was like, no, I have to put it down again. So that's a really great sign. I was so excited to read it, and I would definitely pick up something more by Lou Berney. I also really loved this cover. And a lot of the book was set in summer, which was just perfect for a summer read. The first line in this book was, in summer, season of the Hollywood blockbuster, Bingham got to work at 8 in the morning and didn't leave until long after midnight. The next book that I read was The Fact of a Body, A Murder and a Memoir by Alexandria Marzano-Lesnevich. I picked this up for Lisa's Buddy Reads group that is hosted by Lisa from Books and Smiles. I will leave all the information down below if you guys want to join in. We buddy read 2 books per month. I picked this up right after Booktubeathon. So I was coming out of Booktubeathon feeling really burnt out, and I thought this would be a good book to pick up because I thought it was going to be really engrossing and fast-paced. While it was engrossing and it was written in a fast-paced way, I took forever to read this. I mean, I had to keep putting this book down because it was so emotionally heavy. This follows Alexandria when she has gotten an internship in Louisiana. She's a lawyer who is defending people against the death penalty, and she gets this case of a man who is a pedophile and has killed a six-year-old child and has been handed down the death penalty. She is having a hard time dealing with this case because it is bringing up a lot of memories from her childhood, and it just keeps going back and forth between the case and her life, the case and her life. I thought it was written very well. I thought the writing was fantastic. I thought the formatting and the outlining of it was fantastic. She does take a little bit of liberty as far as the way she wrote the chapters about the case, because like she says, the facts are the facts, and she leaves the facts in there, but she sort of takes liberty with how the characters might be feeling or what might have happened in between these two events, things like that. And she outlines that in the end of the book, and I think she did a great job with that. I will say that it was just so emotionally hard to get through. I would be reading something and think, there's no way something else can happen to this person, or there's no way something more horrific can be on the next page. And every time I would turn the page, something else would happen, and it would just continuously surprise me and leave me feeling kind of depressed while reading it. However, I feel it's a very important read. As I have said before in some of my other videos, I myself was a victim of childhood abuse, and I feel like it's important to read because she brings up the subject of people not believing the victim, and she also brings up other hard-hitting topics like the death penalty, or how can she defend someone when she feels like they should die. Also, like how the perpetrator asked for help and did not receive it, things like that. There are many things that have been brought up in here, and I would love to go back through and reread this again someday and highlight all those things and really write down my thoughts on them. It was just so hard to get through the first time that I probably will not be doing that anytime soon, but it is definitely one that I would want to do. I'm glad that I own it, so I'll be able to go back through and do that at some point. But yeah, I ended up rating this 5 stars, even though it was hard to get through, and I warn whoever goes into it that it is very hard to get through, that it is worth it, because it does bring up a lot of those thoughts and leaves you questioning a lot of your own character and your own morals. So definitely an important read. The first line in this book was, "The boy wears sweatpants the color of a Louisiana lake." Now on to what I am currently reading, and that is The Garden of Small Beginnings by Abby Waxman. I am reading this also for Lisa's Buddy Reads group. I don't know how I feel about this book so far. I am only, let me see, 31 pages into it, and I am not really enjoying it that much. I'm gonna try to read some more later today and see how I feel about it, but this may be a DNF, which I'm not really happy about, because I absolutely love this cover and I would love to keep the book, but if I DNF it, it means I didn't really like it, so I'd have to get rid of it. But we'll see. Again, I'm only 31 pages in. I'll probably give it another 30 pages or so to see if I want to continue with it, but I will let you guys know what I think next week. Now on to what I hope to read for the coming week, and that is only going to be one book, because I am not trying to be ambitious whatsoever. I have school starting in exactly 1 week from today, so I am knowing that this week is going to be busy. We have some appointments and some things to fit in before school starts, and I have cleaning I want to get done and just stuff prepared going into the beginning of the school year. So that book is going to be Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, because this has been on my list for quite a long time, and it is also one that needs to be returned to the library very, very shortly. So I'm hoping to get through this, and if I do, I will let you guys know what I think next week. Anyway, those were all of the books that I read, that I'm currently reading, and that I hope to read. What did you guys read in the last couple of weeks? What have I missed? Did you read anything that you loved? Did you read anything that you really didn't like and had to DNF? Let me know down in the comments below. Just let me know what you guys have been up to. I've really missed talking with you. I have been trying to post and comment on videos, but I had such a huge to-watch list that it took me forever to get through a lot of them, and I wasn't able to comment as much as I wanted. But now my list is back down. It's shrunk a little, so I should be able to get back to my regular commenting and posting. I'm also going to try to work on some tag videos and post some more later this week. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.